Hey guys, welcome to our channel. In today's video, we'll explore the life and career of one of the most iconic and influential rappers in the world, 50 Cent. Curtis James Jackson III, better known as 50 Cent, is not only a successful musical artist but also an astute businessman and a charismatic figure. Let's discover some incredible facts about him. Did you know that the name 50 Cent was inspired by a famous Brooklyn mugger named Kelvin Martin? 50 Cent chose this name as a symbol of change, reflecting his own transformation from a young man involved in crime to a successful artist. Now discover 50 Cent's story behind the song. 50 Cent was born as Curtis James Jackson III on July 6, 1975 in Queens, New York when his mother Sabrina was just 15 years old. He never met his father, trying to support her son alone. Sabrina decided to move after Curtis was born and left him and his grandparents, who already had 9 children, to raise 50 for a while. Sabrina wasn't very present. She was a drug dealer on the streets of Southside Jamaica, one of the toughest neighborhoods in New York. But despite that, she didn't talk to her family about what she was. But everyone knew she was dealing because she always showed up with large amounts of money and expensive gifts for her son, especially at Christmas. But one day when Curtis was 8 years old, she didn't show up. Was found dead in her apartment, already in an advanced state of decomposition. Soon after, her family learned that the cause of death was poisoning. 50 didn't know how to deal with his mother's death. He became destructive, broke things, and was constantly angry, and when he was just 12 years old, 50 Cent was already following in his mother's footsteps after a friend showed him drugs. And while his grandparents thought he was in school, Curtis was dealing. Known as Crack Alley Jamaica, Queens, in the 80s, Southside was the epicenter of the crack epidemic in New York, and 50 was in the middle of it all. He cooked at his friends' houses, hid it in his room, and then sold it. Curtis did everything he could to survive in the neighborhood, and to have a more imposing presence on the streets, he joined a boxing program for young people. And to defend himself even further, 50 got his hands on a gun, and although he never used it, 50 claims that the perception of the people around him changed based on that, because everyone knew that if it happened, he would shoot. Shock incarceration was a military-style camp, and Curtis had to spend 6 months there, and that's when, according to him, he returned to his path, and since then he has never been arrested again. But Curtis returned to drug trafficking, knowing that his luck would eventually run out. And that was when a radical change of plans happened. Inspired by rappers who turned their street stories into a lot of money, Curtis decided that he would write music for a living. And in a chance encounter with Run DMC's Jam Master Jay at a Manhattan nightclub, that Curtis had the chance to showcase his material, and seeing potential in what he saw, Jam Master signed Curtis to his record label GM Records. And that's how the drug lord 21-year-old had a new occupation. Going from drug dealer to rapper after signing with Run DMC's Jam Master Jay, Curtis decided to create a new identity to complete his evolution by taking the name of a well-known Brooklyn thug, 50 Cent. An even bigger change came a year later, when Curtis was just 22 years old. He and his girlfriend Shanika Tompkins had a son, Marquise Jackson, which made 50 Cent take life more seriously. 50 left the life of a drug dealer, sold everything he had, and placed his hopes in music by learning from Jam Master Jay. 2 years passed and progress was slow. 50 Cent was frustrated with not getting much attention from Jay, so when he turned executive producer Corey Rooney in front of a Queens barber shop, he jumped at the opportunity. But 50 felt he didn't give it a lot of confidence in his music, and he let that go. 50 took just 2 weeks to record his debut album called Power of the Dollar, but the record company kept him waiting for 2 years. In 1999, he channeled his frustration lyrically into a diss track called How to Rob, where he rhymed about stealing from music stars. 50 wrote the lyrics in 45 minutes and set it to a reality-based comedy. And 50's single did well. It was such a success that rappers like DMX, Big Pun, Wu-Tang Clan, and Jay-Z responded to it. 50 Cent was making enemies, but none of them were bigger than his neighborhood friend Ja Rule. The problems intensified when 50 Cent decided to put the dispute on a song called Your Life's on the Line, causing the hatred to soon boil over into a fight in Atlanta. The violence escalated in March 2000 when Ja Rule and his gang paid a visit to 50 at the Hit Factory studio in Manhattan. Only this time someone pulled a knife that ended up hitting 50 Cent just after he threw a speaker at the Ja Rule's gang. But nothing serious happened to 50, who only had to have 3 stitches on his wrist. 50 Cent's bad boy reputation was growing. But after this fight, things started to get out of control. They put the rapper's head as a price, and everyone was afraid something bad would happen to him. And something ended up happening to 50 Cent in front of his grandmother's house in Queens. After 50 left his grandmother's house and got into a friend's second car, a car pulled up next to him and shots were fired. 50 Cent had been shot in the hand, face and legs. 9 bullets in total were fired at close range. 50 was rushed to the operating room and no one knew if he would survive or not. One of the bullets went through 50's face and stayed in his tongue before knocking out one of his teeth, causing 50 to choke and to clean his way. Doctors wanted to do a tracheostomy, a critical decision for 50 Cent's family that could leave the rapper losing his voice. His grandmother's prayers were heard and 50 survived without the operation, but having to face an uphill battle, causing him to stay in bed for months without being able to speak. The reason for the tires has caused endless speculation, and many believe that it had something to do with the stabbing and that it was connected to Ja Rule's record label, Mutter Inc. Stories point out that a guy called Hama was the shooter and that a few weeks later he was found dead, but without any connection, motivated by 50 Cent's revenge. But that's a story that only the streets and 50 know what happened. After surviving, 50 began a grueling process of rebuilding his body, and what didn't kill him definitely made him stronger, and 50 was ready to conquer hip-hop. But there was a problem with his record label that was scared of him, all the controversies, and fired the rapper for fear of inheriting any problems from him. After being recruited by record companies, 50 Cent no longer needed to call the record companies, they were the ones who called him. 50 received proposals from more than 8 different record companies, one of them even proposing a $1 million contract, which was promptly rejected by the rapper. That's when Eminem, who had his own record label, Shady Records, didn't hesitate. Today, older and wiser, 50 Cent no longer cares about controversies like he used to. People can say whatever they want, he will just laugh. 50 had showed that he didn't lose his focus on the violent streets of Queens and never forgot his past. And that's what drives him in his rhymes and still pushes him in his incessant search for success.